Hello, everyone. Happy Motivational Monday. We're here, we're together, and I am so excited. So, you might notice that I'm in a different background. And with that, I am here at our LifeGuides annual HR leadership retreat where we have people coming in from global leaders around the world in HR are going to be here. And we're looking at how LifeGuides plays a role in that and the way that we can continue to provide our services, to expand our mission, and to expand our partnerships. So I'm helping host that. I've got a wealth of events experience. But also, I am for those of you who don't know, I don't know if I've expressed this a lot on Motivational Monday, but I am an Indigenous woman. My people are Indigenous to Puerto Rico, the Tainos. And we'll actually be talking about that a little bit more next week when I'm on the island. And I have a special treat for you. But the place that we're doing this at is in Phoenix, Arizona, and we're on a Maricopa and Pima reservation. And they like everything is tied into the history of the people, like the restaurant menus, even there's a Maricopa pottery water symbol on my door leading out onto my balcony. This art is Maricopa art. Like it's just the way that they did this is so beautiful. And as an Indigenous woman who believes that our cultures should be thriving, I feel like it's just so nice to be here and to be in this space. So I'm really excited for Motivational Monday. We actually have a smaller group than usual, which is nice and intimate. I'm sure we'll have more people hopping on as we continue on. But last week we talked about urgency culture, and I'm curious, drop 111 in the chat if you feel like that was a relevant conversation to you. The idea that people continue to give us tasks and we just keep doing them and we get all of these notifications and we never really have this sense of internal satisfaction in the work that we're doing because it never feels like we get to the point of being able to be like, cool, I completed some things, I feel good, I'm gonna turn off. I can relate to that too. So that's why we had that conversation last week. But then it also led into a conversation about burnout. And I feel like a lot of us are familiar with maybe feelings of burnout, but a lot of us just think that it's a byproduct of working. And we kind of, in our society at the very least, have placed it as this phenomenon that is normalized. And I'm here to have this conversation to not normalize that because urgency culture does not need to be like that. There are so many people who find it so easy to send us notifications and do all these things. But if we know how to prioritize ourselves and if we know what our main priorities are, which we might need to communicate with our bosses and the people that we work with, of like, hey, what are my top priorities and how would you like me to handle all of these additional things? Because I can only do so much. So once you know what your top priorities are, then you get to like break out of that urgency culture mindset, right? And then from there, we get to be in the place of starting to learn what burnout is and starting to learn how that affects us on significantly deep levels. And burnout actually changes the functioning of our brain, it changes the shape of our brain. Like it is more than just this mental thing that we emotionally feel, it is incredibly significant. And the health effects, the negative health effects that come from that are really huge as well. So, yeah, Manny says, I wish I made that meeting, would like to have heard other perspectives. So, on that meeting, the Motivational Monday of last week, the recording is in your email. So you can go and watch the recording, and all the Motivational Mondays are on our YouTube. So if you ever missed anything, or if you're having a Thursday that's rocking your world, and you're like, dang, like I would love to rehear what we talked about in regards to having healthier relationships, just go to the YouTube, find the session, put it on, listen to it in the background, whatever. They're there for you to utilize as tools and as resources in your lives. So, with all that being said, we're going to dive right into the kind of the science of burnout and what that looks like for us, the ways that we can start to cope. But I think the biggest thing is we talked about this when we were doing our emotional intelligence series. We can't change anything until we name it. So, one of the reasons why we talked about the difference between stress and overwhelm is so that we know which one we are dealing with and we know how to handle them. With stress, you need to like chill yourself out With overwhelm, you actually need to stimulate yourself in a healthy way. But if you don't know the difference of those, then you might not be giving yourself the right tools and the right resources to navigate the situation that you're in. Same thing goes for burnout. A lot of us know that burnout is a thing, but we don't actually know the depths of it and the way that it works and the ways that we can help ourselves through it. So, with that, we now have tools and resources, and putting together this conversation this morning was actually really cool. So, I'm going to pull up my notes here and we're going to dive right in and drop 222 in the chat if you relate to that feeling of burnout. I do. Most of the time, I refuse for there to be burnout in my life, but I've noticed places recently where I have not honored that for myself. I'm like, oh my gosh. And I teach this and I know this, and I've been doing this work for a really long time, but sometimes it just surprises us. And sometimes we get into denial about our capacity, which is crazy. So, with that, burnout is pretty significant. So, when it comes to burnout in general, burnout is the loss of motivation. It causes emotional depletion and it actually increases cynicism, which I know that and I've felt that and I've experienced that. But to have it said, I don't think I ever knew that it was the burnout that was making me cynical and pessimistic and angry and frustrated. I think I just thought that it was a byproduct of the work that I was doing, but the burnout was what was causing that, which is so significant. So what's interesting with burnout is the science around it started in the 1970s, but now it's actually recognized as a legitimate medical disorder, which is wild. So it can also be a little bit confusing because it overlaps with some of the telltale signs of depression, extreme fatigue, loss of passion, and intensifying negativity. And if any of you relate to any of that, you can leave comments in the chat or you can just put 333 of like, yeah, Kira, I know exactly what that feels like. So the three main indicators of burnout are an overwhelming sense of exhaustion, feelings of cynicism and detachment, which I feel like a lot of us get burnt out at our jobs and then we get really detached and we're like, I can't even be here anymore. And maybe it's not necessarily the job itself, but it's the burnout causing you to feel all of these ways that you feel because there's a lack of boundaries, a lack of healthy expectations, a lack of clear communication, a lack of you being able to express what you need, a lack of people realizing that you're just a human doing your best and you can't do everything all at once. But some of that responsibility falls on us, right? So this conversation about burnout isn't a conversation saying like, hey, burnout is a normal thing. This is a conversation to say that burnout is real. It impacts us significantly, and we have to take responsibility for that because people are always going to place more on us and more on us and more on us and expect more from us until we say, I can't do more. And as soon as you say, I can't do more, people realize you can't do more and they stop giving you more to do. And I know sometimes it seems like way too simple, and a lot of this is easier said than done. These are skill sets that we have to develop. If we've been boundaryless people for most of our lives when it comes to our professions, then chances are it's going to be hard to start to make those shifts. But the more that we realize that burnout plays a significant role on us, the more that we can at least know where we're at and work towards getting to the place where we're healthier and more in balance. And this is a conversation that we had on our Being Human First live coaching session last week, is just because society says that it's normal to be burnt out and overworked and stressed does not mean that it's okay. It doesn't mean that it's healthy, and it doesn't mean that you need to subscribe to it. So just because, people are running these businesses or helping run organizations or whatever it is, and they're really burnt out and they're not enjoying their lives, and that's a norm, does not mean that that needs to be you. And if it's an unhealthy behavior, then someone has to be the first movement of people who are making the change and doing things differently. And maybe that's you. If it's not you, it'll be someone else. But honestly, ideally, it's better if it's you because at that point, we get to be in the place of being the change makers for ourselves and helping other people see and make change. So, with that being said, burnout emerges from the demands when my brain, I'm so tired, but Burnout emerges with the demands of a job extending beyond a person's ability to cope with stress. So if your job is demanding more of you than you are able to cope with, you will experience burnout. And it's interesting because burnout is a lot more than just working too hard or too long. Burnout is high job demands, low control, or a sense of low control. I personally feel like we have more control than we think that we do. A lot of that comes from our own inner value. A lot of that comes from our own boundaries. A lot of that comes from our own vulnerability and being able to express healthily, right? But high job demands, low control, whether perceived or unperceived. And what's the last one? Oh, an effort rewards imbalance. So I found that one really, really, really interesting where we're putting in all of this effort, but we're not getting the rewards from it. And drop 444 in the chat if you're the type of person who thrives on praise. And when you like to be acknowledged, you like to be seen for the work that you do. You like to be valued in the work that you do. When you do something good, you appreciate when someone tells you thank you. A lot of us don't always have that. And a lot of us are continuing to work and work and work and work without the recognition for the work that we do. And for me personally, I when I'm typing things into even Chat GPT, I'm always saying thank you to Chat GPT. I'm like, thank you, you're doing such a good job. And I do that to everyone. And the reason why my work relationships with my team, we all work remotely. We don't like know each other super intimately, but everyone wants to help me. Everyone wants to support me. And everyone's also open to me being vulnerable and being like, I don't have the capacity for that. And I'm so sorry. Can we push it off? Or where is it at on the priority list? Um, because I'm really kind. And I tell people all day, I'm like, you're doing amazing. Thank you so much for what you do. I'm sending emojis, I'm sending gifts, and it brings back this levity into our work where it doesn't have to be so big and so stressful and we can love each other and get our work done. But the reason why I am like that is because I didn't have that. So some of our greatest strengths come from our hardest downfalls that we've experienced, right? So I wanted recognition in a lot of ways, and I did not get it. And I was not seen for my value, and I felt like a number in other organizations. It's why I left and started my own business. But when I came back into the workforce, I was like, I want to work in a place where we have similar values and where we like each other and where we have the freedom to be ourselves and where I can wear like rainbow rooster earrings and talk about my indigenous roots, whatever. And I got that. And that feels really good to me. But it was also really important to me to be able to be that person who validates people and lets people know that I see how hard they're working and how amazing they're doing and that they feel that it genuinely comes from my heart. So, with that, what happens is burnout happens with when demands and expectations are more significant than rewards, recognition, and relaxation. So, if you place more emphasis on the demands and expectations of others than you place on relaxation and recognition, burnout is something that you could experience. If your company places demands and expectations as more valuable than relaxation and recognition, then chances are they may have a culture that could lead to burnout. And again, this is a cultural, societal thing. It doesn't mean that it's right. It just means that it's a thing that's happening. And, it's Martin Luther King Jr. Day today, right? Um, having the courage to make a change isn't always easy. But just because things are the way that they are doesn't mean the way that they're the way that they should be. And it doesn't mean that it's not time for things to change. And that's what he showed us. He saw a significant problem in the world. And he saw that all humans should be equal and should be treated rightfully so, right? And he had the courage to make a change in the world. And he saw, like, this is normal, but it's not right. We get to do the same thing. So, the thing that happens with burnout is that people with burnout experience more extreme reactions to external stresses and have a much harder time calming themselves down. So someone who's not in the middle of burnout and gets a stressor placed on them, whether it's a guest yelling at them or their boss telling them they did something wrong, whatever it is, it doesn't hit them as hard and they're able to calm themselves down much easier. But someone who's burnt out, they experience it very intensely and they do not have the tools within themselves to be able to regulate and chill themselves out. And that's a byproduct of burnout and what it literally does to the chemicals in your brain and the certain parts of your brain that handle stresses and fear responses. So that part of the brain is the amygdala that rules emotional fear and aggression. And that part of the brain changes when we're in burnout and it gets highly stressed. And we do not have the tools or the ability within ourselves to be able to navigate those stresses and situations properly. And the overall effects of burnout are memory. It's affecting your memory. It's affecting your attention and it's affecting your emotional capacity. And it doesn't end when you leave work. If you're in burnout, you're in burnout. And it's all day, every day. And it's affecting so many different parts of ourselves. And as someone whose grandmother deteriorated from Alzheimer's, when I see anything that is linked to memory, it's it is a huge red flag in my mind of like, Kira, if you don't want to end up like that, you can't. In no way, shape, or form can you allow yourself to experience burnout. Oh my gosh, I'm getting like tears in my eyes because it's true. Like that's how I live my life. Um, a lot of things are genetic, yes, and a lot of things we have some control over. Where for me, no, it's simple. Burnout causes memory problems and it runs in my family. I'm going to make sure that doesn't happen. Easy, simple. So, what happens is that cortisol becomes chronic when stress becomes chronic. So, cortisol is a hormone in our body that is really only used in fight or flight situations. So, it's a huge stress hormone where when we need to protect ourselves or we need safety or whatever, it comes on and it activates us in our protector survival mode. But that's like if a freaking cheetah is chasing after us when we're a caveman. We're not supposed to be operating at baseline levels of cortisol in general. So many women are, so many men are. It causes inflammation, it causes cognitive imbalances, it causes so much. It increases your inflammation, which is a significant indicator for developing coronary heart disease, which is the most common type of heart disease. And if you guys have been here since the beginning of Motivational Monday, you know that I created Motivational Monday because the highest time for having a heart attack is on a Monday morning. And I was like, cool, let's make Monday mornings better. If people are that stressed out, let's just make it better and let's have a good conversation and start our week off on the right foot. Burnout is a significant cause that gives us a higher likelihood of developing coronary heart disease, which kills more than 370,000 people a year. And you do not need to be that person. Manny, I love that so much. Finally, answers to why I'm behaving the way I have been. Exactly. I remember working in high stress environments and judging myself for being emotionally reactive and not feeling like I had control over myself and feeling like easy things were really hard. And I thought it was just because of me. And it's not. It's because the expectations that are placed on you and the workload that is placed on you is beyond your capacity. So it can be reversed. Relaxation is a significant, significant, significant helper for your body and brain and burnout, but it's not momentary relaxation. You guys heard me talk about this last week. I'm working on this huge project, this retreat that I'm here hosting, and it's taken a lot out of me. And I get to watch the rewards of it this week because it's actually happening in full execution. But then, literally, the second this retreat ends, I'm on a plane heading out to Puerto Rico. I'm out of office until February 3rd, other than Motivational Monday, because I love spending time with you. But outside of that, I'm not working. I'm relaxing. I've got my hammock. I've got my snorkel. I actually packed like my suitcase is like 75% Puerto Rico things and like 25% retreat things. Because I was like, I can't. I know that I'm putting myself at a significant place of stress, and I know that I have a higher likelihood of burning out. And I refuse to put myself in those positions, right? So I did what I needed to do to give myself the motivator to get through this and to put in the work, and then put in the relaxation afterwards so that I can reset and recharge and put myself in a good place so that when I come back, I'm fully me because I've given my all to this retreat and it's been amazing. But oh my gosh, I'm so ready to be on the beach. Well, I'm ready for everyone to get here and to meet everyone and to watch the magical unfolding. But really, like, I'm ready to be tan, eating fruit, laying in a hammock. Um, but what happens, listen to this. So, a lot of us have guilt trips for taking extra hours of sleep when we're tired. We got to stop with that. I did tell you guys last week we are going to do at least one or two sessions, probably in February. I need to confirm with Dr. Dave, the person who I want to come co-host Motivational Monday with me. He studied with a sleep specialist. So I want his insight on sleep. He prioritizes sleep as one of his top priorities. I want his insight on that because sleep is so important for our bodies to function normally. But what's crazy is we guilt ourselves for taking extra hours of sleep when we're tired. But burnout also dysregulates our sleep. So if we're burnt out, we're not sleeping as well. And then we get more burnt out, and then we guilt ourselves for needing more sleep. And it's just this vicious cycle. So the way that burnout works is that we end up working harder to achieve normal performance levels. So we can still perform in burnout, but it takes a lot more energy. And it's a slower transition from one task to another because we are taking on such a significant energy load and we are being so inefficient with our energy when we're in burnout. And it's just because that's the way our body works. We were never supposed to be in burnout like this. And it uses a lot more internal resources to do so. So, and burnout also affects our ability to prioritize self-care. So when I was saying before about judging ourselves for who we become in burnout and why we don't prioritize ourselves and why we know that meditation and yoga is great for us and we've done it in other layers of our lives, but now we don't do it now. That is a byproduct of burnout. But again, the more that we know that it's a byproduct of the state that we're in, the easier it is to say, I'm committed to getting out of this and I'm committed to doing the things that I need to do to make sure that I'm not in this place. And Alexandria says, it's so hard to know where or when to draw the line. I feel you. I keep telling myself to push on. It's only for a little bit. Then weeks later, the workload hasn't changed, and then more is expected. These are the conversations where you'll have to get really vulnerable with yourself of what your actual capacity is. And these are the places where, maybe you talk to your human resources department, maybe you talk to your team, maybe you talk to your leader in your department, whatever, and you start having vulnerable conversations. Whatever your boss's name, let's say that it's Michaela. Hey, Michaela, do you have some time to talk today? I've been really struggling. Michaela says yes. You say, Michaela, I've realized a pattern that I've had for my whole entire life that's been really unhealthy for me. And I love, this is what you're going to say. I love that we have LifeGuides. I love that we have Motivational Monday because I learned that the burnout that I feel is not a problem of me. It's a problem where I haven't expressed my capacity and what my needs are, and I'm working beyond my capacity. So, this is something that I've done my whole entire life. It hasn't only happened here, but I'm committed to changing this because I know that once I'm out of burnout, I'll be a better employee. I'll be more positive. I'll be happier. I'll be healthier, and we'll be getting even more work done, and it'll be more efficient and it'll be more great. So for me here, my question would be like, what are the top priorities in my job? What are the things that are top that I can focus on? And I also want to let you know that I'm going to start being more clear about what I do and don't have the capacity for. I'm going to start giving myself healthier deadlines and I'm going to start communicating healthier so that I have what I need to make sure that I can show up in my best here and outside of work. And then Michaela's going to be like, great. Here are the places that that I need you to prioritize. I'm so sorry that you're so stressed out. I didn't know. And you're going to be like, I didn't even know. I didn't know burnout was like this, but now I know. And Michaela's going to be like, let's work on this together. And you're going to work on it together. You're going to take some time off. You're going to rest. You're going to relax. You're not going to go home. You're not going to burn yourself out at home, cleaning the entire house, whatever. Maybe you go on a vacation, whatever it is. I choose vacation because, like, I have to walk my dogs and clean my home and whatever when I'm home. But when I'm not at home, it's not the same. And those are the conversations that you're going to have. And that's how you're going to start to combat burnout because a lot of it is you don't know where to draw the line. You don't know what your capacity is. You have not communicated clearly. So people are always going to give you more and more and more until you tell them where your threshold is. But you're not superhuman. You're just one little human doing your best. And the more that you communicate that, and the more that you let people know what you're available for and what you're not available for, you'll have better work relationships. People will respect you more, and you'll be healthier as a person. So that's all I have to say for our Motivational Monday conversation. I love that this was really relatable to a lot of you. And I love that it, uh, yeah, I love that it could be of significance to you. It was significant to me just researching it. So next week I'm out of office, but I am hosting Motivational Monday. I will be on the island of Puerto Rico. I'll probably be tanner. I'll probably be happier, even though I'm already like joyful, like a ridiculous amount of joyful. But next week we'll be talking about the parts of you that make you you and tuning into your roots. And I'm going to be sharing some of my Indigenous story. And I have a surprise for you. It's probably going to be the most personal Motivational Monday episode that we've done so far, where you'll learn a lot more about me and you'll see different pieces that make me a human and make me Akira. And it's going to be fun. I'm actually really excited for it. Okay, everyone. Well, I will see you next week. This recording will be sent out next Monday before our Motivational Monday session. And if you missed last week's session, just go to our YouTube. You can type in LifeGuides Now on YouTube and you can find the urgency culture recording that's right there for you. It is a perfect pairing to this conversation. And hopefully, this supports you in having more of that work-life balance and focusing on yourself and your health. So, without further ado, this is the end of Motivational Monday, and I will see you all next week.